You'd expect a new generation of an established sports car to gain horsepower. A fresh new look? Practically mandatory. Advanced new suspension systems? Very necessary. A higher tech interior with more fancy features? 100%. More seats? Well, that's not typically part of the refresh recipe, but for the 2024 AMG GT Coupe, debuting today in California as part of the Monterey Car Week festivities, Mercedes not only added all the above but threw in a couple of extra seats to boot. The result is a car that doesn't radically change the formula over what's come before but extends it with just a hint of additional practicality to meet the needs of those lucky enough to afford one of these. 2 extra seats plus 2 more driven wheels and a significant visual refresh equates to what should be a world-class experience. Let's dig into the details. Number 1. Power. You can't iterate on a sports car without adding power, and the new AMG GT has exactly that, as before provided by a 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8. But, depending on which configuration you opt for, you'll have more or less shove at your disposal. At the start, there will be just 2 configurations available. Go for the lower-spec AMG GT 55 4MATIC Plus puts out a healthy 476 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. That's 7 more ponies and 51 more pounds-foot of torque than the current AMG GT. The result is a 0 to 62 miles per hour time of 3.9 seconds. And remember, this is the slower of the 2. Step up to the AMG GT 63 4MATIC Plus and you'll receive a whopping 585 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. That's 8 more horsepower than the current AMG GTR and 74 more pounds-foot of torque. Here, the 0 to 62 miles per hour time drops to 3.2 seconds. These 2 are for sure just the beginning. Given the alphabet soup of configurations available in the first generation, you can bet more will come in time. Number 2. Traction. As you can guess by the names, AMG GT 55 4MATIC Plus and GT 63 4MATIC Plus, the new AMG GT Coupe offers all-wheel drive in every configuration. This is a rear-biased setup, with power sent from the V8 to the rear axle, where an active clutch modulates how much traction is sent to the front wheels. So, you can get a perfect 50-50 distribution if you like, or just send it all to the back wheels for extra grins. At the rear, the AMG GT also features an active, limited-slip differential, ensuring that traction is fairly distributed between left and right. The front differential is open, but the car will use the ABS system to ensure wheel spin is kept in check should that be an issue. It's all turned by a 9-speed automatic transmission but, interestingly, Mercedes has pulled the slushy torque converter and replaced it with the motorcycle-style wet clutch. This is a novel solution to creating a more responsive feel than a traditional slush box, and a lighter one, too. Mercedes says shift times are extremely short but hasn't quoted any specific figures. Number 3. Deck. Mercedes calls the new AMG GT Coupe's interior hyper-analog, which sounds like a lo-fi greatest hits album, but in reality is a nod to the combination of high-tech and traditional, driver-focused layout inside the thing. A large, 11.9-inch, portrait-oriented display runs a flavor of bucks, augmented with some AMG-specific screens that display things like vehicle performance and lap times. If you're not into the bucks experience, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay will be on offer. More info is piped through the optional HUD, while the gauge cluster behind the wheel is fully digital and heavily customizable. The cabin itself features customizable feature lighting, while up front the digital light headlights have all sorts of fun features, like illuminating lanes on the road. The LED tails, meanwhile, have a few tricks of their own, including some animations that will play to welcome an approaching driver.